Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good day and welcome to my very first episode after the November 5th United States presidential election, which made the Americans, well, in J.D. Vance's words, witness the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States. Donald John Trump is now the 47th president of the most influential country on earth, and that for the second time, will make his decisions so consequential, not only in the 50 states of America, but in the whole world. Well, we are very much interested in what went wrong for Kamala Harris, but the most important thing is what the future of the United States of America and the whole world would be under the presidency of a man who, in his first term, talked a lot about deportation and Muslim ban and so on and so forth. Now, is the world absolutely worried about the return of Donald Trump, and how can we cope with him? To discuss this, I'm joined via Zoom from New York by Dr. Ameena Ali, founder and CEO of the Federation of International Gender and Human Rights. Thank you very much indeed, Doctor, for agreeing to speak to me this morning where you are and evening where we are in Nigeria. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's so good to be back after so long. I am so happy to be here and be together again, especially after such a tragedy that has befallen our country. So thank you so very much.
Yeah, you're very much welcome. Dr. Ameena Ali, if I may start with you with this question. Were you surprised, shocked even, to discover that Donald Trump was elected or re-elected as the 47th president of the United States of America?
Nothing surprises me, as old as I am. But what has reimagined my thinking was that the United States is truly not ready for a woman to take helm. We did the Hillary Clinton thing. We talked about Hillary Clinton years ago, and we thought that there was a white woman that would have contention. And we thought that that was like the proudest moment. And then when she got the popular vote, but lost the election, I was disheartened. But I knew that her being not the first, because as you know, Shirley Chisholm was the first to run, but to know that she was the closest for a contention. Shirley Chisholm did it just to prove that women could run for office. And Hillary vied for the position because she had her husband to back her and that type thing. But when Kamala came through, it was a slap in the face as a Black woman, as a woman of color, as a woman born in the United States, of foreign parentage, a woman that has made her just due in the United States, getting educated, being reared, being associated with the culture and traditions of the United States, even in my point, serving in the military. You know, it made me understand that it was time for me. It was time for someone that looked like me to shine. So I don't want to say I was surprised or shocked even. I was hurt.
All right.
I was hurt. And I was hurt. Some of the factors that I believe are responsible is that there's a voice that is very loud right now that says that white men can do whatever they choose to do.
Okay.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
The deciding factor in that is there is a constitutional law. And I want your readers, I want your viewers to Google this. U.S. Constitution says that you cannot run for office if you are a convicted felon. Just Google it.
Okay.
You can't even run for office, let alone win, if you are a convicted felon. And Trump has numerous felonies behind his name now. Yet not only did he get in, was successful in running, but he won.
Okay.
So now what does that say about him devoiding the Constitution? You cannot run for it was written that way for a reason.
Okay.
So now what this is saying is not only can he could just say ho hum to the Constitution and do what he pleases, but he has enough money and enough backing to do so.
But the
So
problem,
it speaks highly to another thing, that money wins.
yeah.
So the factors of him having, like Elon Musk and that type thing behind him means that there is plausibility and possibilities for anything for white men, and that's scary.
Are you trying to say that Trump and his camp, Elon Musk and the rest, might have bribed the judiciary, the DOJ, and that was why they gave him a pass so as to come out? What happened?
No, he had enough money to support the programs that is coming out and the people that are behind the programs. So, for example, and I'm just going to use a random one. It has nothing to do with it. I'm just going to use an example. If you were to, let's say, you're running for president and you want to empower the women. So you have enough money to go and pay certain women's groups to endorse and vote for him. Okay, vote for you. So what you'll do is you'll take your Elon Musk and you will have him write a check to 20 organizations that are big with women voters. And you will write that check and you will, whatever they want, you will promise in your first and second year of presidency, I will do this as a thank you for getting me into office. So you have all of these people that are being paid to vote your way. So why wouldn't they? They're getting donations to the organization. They're getting their name out there. They're getting prestige and promotion. Why wouldn't they vote that way? And then if you get in office, they get what they want. He had enough money to do those things. And that is what tripped up a lot of the congressional people that were voting a certain way, because they knew then that that wasn't going to fly, because he had higher people in higher positions that were able to get him the vote he needed. And I realized that when he sat back in his speech, this very last speech he made, and he said, the reason why I won't win is because it'll be your fault. So that's the bully blaming that's the bully coming out and blaming those that he is hoping to make him win, with a confidence that said, you will be the blame, literally. So now no one wants to be the blame for anything. God forbid, you're being called out as a blame for something. So those that were on the fence that had some views for him now flipped onto his side. So now we had more people that were once unconfirmed, now confirmed and voting in that direction. So it bothers me quite a bit.
So here in Nigeria, there's a lot of talk about the use of money, the influence of money in Nigerian politics, not only in Nigeria, but in many other African countries. This has been a serious issue of concern. Now, are you categorically saying that this thing that we have been trying to fight against in Africa has now become prevalent in the United States of America because of the return of Donald Trump? He has used money. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying it's always been here. It's just, it's more emboldened now. It's always been here. I mean, back from Kennedy and his father's influence. And there are factors in place that are people in high places that cash in favors, and they do the necessary thing to get their candidate elected. We have lobbyists. We have those that are political strategists. That's a nice word to say that I know.
Wait, you did this in quote.
Yes.
Political strategists. Is there any negative connotation?
It is. There is no such thing as political strategy. All it is a political welcome, if you will. When you say politics, it's like saying military intelligence.
Yeah,
the military doesn't vibe on intelligence; it vibes on action. So whether it's a smart move or a not smart move, they had to move that way for their reasoning, and it's a military reason. So when you say political strategies, there is politics is strategy. So it's like an oxymoron. So when you say a political strategist, it's like saying a wealthy rich person. It's the same thing. To me, it's a play on words to have a title to do the thing that we already know you're doing, which is calling the right people to get your person in office, period.
So those
So,
political strategists are the ones that are influencing the decisions of the politicians that we elect, we vote into office.
but that's their job. That's they're the what they call it, the mouthpieces, the PR pieces. Political strategy is about the look, the vibe, the who do we confer with. If I'm wanting a women's votes, I'm gonna throw a woman out there, so it'll be a woman political strategist that is going to go to all of the women's organizations, and they're going to pour tea and coffee and crumpets over everyone to get them to hear the message and then convince them that my message is valid. They are masters of verbal manipulation, if you will. I'm going to say one thing but really mean something else. I'm going to present one thing and really counter with something else. I'm going to promise you one thing and then I'll try to do it. You know you weren't going to do it in the first place.
By the use of the word try, it means there's a suspicion around that. But then the problem is that what if the politician you have voted for into office, you have elected, represents the will of the people? Then I think there is no problem having some political strategists influencing the decision, I think.
Correct. But you don't have to have a strategy if you're doing the right thing. And I'm going to break this down on terms that you understand. Did the Prophet, peace be upon him, need a strategy to promote Islam?
Oh.
He just told the truth. He spoke the truth as it was written, and those that believe follow. There is no strategy to Islam. We don't even proselytize. That's how unstrategic we are.
But the difference is that the Prophet ﷺ received revelation from Allah, and there's no doubt about the message in Quran. At the same time, we saw in his life, we have read in his life, that when it comes to matter of the world, he used to ask the people around him, his companion, and there is a verse in the Holy Quran which says, وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. You need to ask for their own advice. I think there's no confusion here.
No, I didn't say it was confusion. I said that there was no strategy needed. He asked the people, he asked for their advice, and whatever the advice, the people of the time or the people of the mindset, the scholars or those that were worldly of that time gave their advice. There was no strategy behind it. It wasn't like he asked that to counteract what they were saying. It wasn't like he asked that question so that well, they are thinking this way, so let me go that way. No, there is no strategy to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did. He gave it, he decreed it, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, followed it. There was no strategy to that. So what I'm saying is the goodness of keeping the fastest growing religion, as people call it, going has nothing to do with strategy. It has to do with people coming forward in the truth. The truth speaks for itself. And that is it. That's how Islam has grown over the years. There's no one that has been, standing on the corner and saying Allah saves, and there's no one, proselytizing, come to Islam, and come on, we don't do that. All we do is give you what it is, teach by example, and you follow. That's it. There's no strategy.
Yeah.
And so when you say political strategy, what you're saying is it's a nuance to get you to vote the way we want you to vote, to get you to almost come into Islam in the sect that we want you to come into, or come into the deen on the side door, in the way that we're showing. That's this political piece. We're trying to up our numbers, so we'll just give shahada to the next 1,000 people that come through the door. Like, that's the shit. We don't do that. So that's where I think it's immoral. That's the piece that I believe is immoral.
Yeah, definitely. One of the factors, let's go back to the factors that have been responsible for the loss or the defeat of Kamala Harris and the victory of Donald Trump, is the Muslims in Michigan. I'm sorry, I have to bring this up, who said that Donald Trump had promised them peace in the Middle East, in Gaza, and he would stop the genocide, as a lot of people believe happening in Gaza. And I think Kamala Harris should blame herself for not taking advantage of those Muslim communities, those Muslims in places like Michigan, even though I know they did not speak for all the Muslims in the United States of America. Do you believe that it's Kamala's fault for not capitalizing on the Muslim community in Michigan? And he used that as an opportunity to get to them.
He did. He did. However, some of the things that he was saying, the jargon that he was saying was not true. And there was no way that he could do that in the next 4 years, given the best of situations. And he is not for the Muslims. So let's be clear. Okay. He did that for a vote, which he didn't get. He didn't get from the Muslims. I mean, it was a majority vote for him in Michigan, but he did not get them from the Muslims. So, and that's unfortunate. That's fortunate that he didn't get their vote, but it's unfortunate that he did all of that for absolutely nothing. Kamala, on the other hand, her husband is Jewish. Okay, so there is a fine line there. You have to understand that she married a practicing Jewish man. Okay, she is of African descent. She is of
Indian,
South Asian descent, and she's married to a Jewish man. So you cannot, I hate to use this term, you can't throw garbage where you eat. So you cannot speak on the Palestinian voice, and I use that because there is no Palestinian voice, as you know.
Yeah.
You can't use the Palestinian voice as an anchor to your campaign when you know you're going home to someone that does not support the Palestinian voice. So you can't use, it almost sets her up for a target attack. They're going to say, oh, you're for the Muslims. Does your husband know that? Like, is your husband on board with that? You know what I mean? Like that. It would set her up for an attack. So she was smart not to add that to her. But the idea would have been better if she won to go ahead and promote those things in office, because now you don't have to stand there and smile and say, I'm going to support you like Donald Trump did, knowing good and well he's not going to support us. It was almost it was a facial attack for him to say some of the things that he said about the Muslims, knowing full well that anything that Netanyahu wants is going to be on his plate. And he knows it. And I say this as a Black Muslim woman in the United States and a veteran of this United States. I served my country proudly for 11 years, and I defended the Constitution of this country.
And you even went to Gulf War. You even went to Gulf War. Sure.
I did. I was in the Gulf War, and, you know, that was in the 90s, so I'm dating myself a little bit. But I served in the Gulf War in the 1990s, and I served knowing that that's actually when I accepted the dean, oddly enough, because I was over in Saudi Arabia. But to know that is to know that just knowing I was supposed to go over there to defend our country, I accepted the most blessed life that you can be asked to do, because I was amongst the people, which is where the moral injury came in, which is where the treason came in. It was perceived as treason because I accepted the dean there. And to know that there is still a moral injury. I'm supposed to go over there and fight these people, yet they brought me the most blessed steps that a person can make in life. How do you rectify that? How do you see that? So back to the original piece about defending our country, the defense was because I believe the Constitution was just. I believe that all men have a right to freedom and the pursuit of happiness. I believe all men are free and created equal. I believe that all men, and I don't mean men, I mean women as well, but all people, anybody that was born to the soil has that inalienable right. Okay. So for you to blast it in the way that you did by supporting Netanyahu, by being a convicted felon and running for office, knowing that it defies everything about the Constitution and the reasons that the president was situated that way. And then to now look at us in our faith and say, oh, yeah, we're going to support the Muslims. Oh, I'm going to develop the best economic plan that Muslims are going to ever desire. And all of the rhetoric that he said. And it was a lie. There is nothing in his plan that speaks to Muslims. And these are ex-Donald Trump supporters. Came out and said there is nothing in his plan that supports Muslims. So why did you stand up there and do that? Why did you stand up there and say that? That to me was just a slap in the face. I could have been I would have been better able to respect you as a man if you said nothing than to lie to us. I don't know. I was so disheartened.
Yeah. But I think people like you should do justice to Trump by considering the fact that the Trump we have now might be different from the Trump that we had between 16 and 2020. There is the talk of this. There is this issue of Trump 2.0, a new version an improved, a better version of Donald Trump.
No. That's not what 2.0 means. 2.0 means that he now has energy for his plan of action. Okay. So 2.0 means that he started this plan of eliminating the Department of Education. And he started wanting to, when he was in here the first time, he was starting to eliminate, we are starting to eliminate the barriers of Social Security and all of the comforts that seniors are needing. And then he's taken away, as I said, the Department of Education. So 2.0 means now he has 4 years to actually accomplish it. That's what that 2.0 means. He has have you heard about the 2025 plan for what he's rolling up? Exactly. He wants police officers to have blanket immunity. That means they can come through your door, whether they have a warrant or not. They can arrest you without cause. They can have a complacent due process at their leisure. No due process that's speedy. They can stop and frisk. They can pull you out of your car. All of these things police are going to be able to do, and you can't retaliate. You cannot sue them. You cannot propose any laws against them. What that's going to do is embolden those that were already doing it and give them a get out of jail free card immensely. So to know that is to know there can never be anything of peace if you're causing chaos through the plan that you're already implementing. So outside of the economic anxiety, outside of the populist messaging, outside of the anti-establishment sentiment that is so rampant in anything that he speaks of, how can we have an effective use of media and social media to promote something that we know is going to happen to try to stop it? How do we do that? How do we know that this plan is going to happen when it's just a plan? And this 2.0 that you speak on is speaking so well to what he is supposed to be reviving, which is more tax breaks for us people, our lowly people. Trying to get us more resolute to understand the political process, to be patient. And how are we supposed to trust and believe in all of this? How are we supposed to do this when what you did initially did not share that sense? It's not like you did good and then you only had 4 years and then you didn't have enough time. No. You broke down what was already cracked in the 4 years you had. And now you want to come back and just amalgamate the glass now, so I don't have faith.
Yeah, I know you don't have faith in Donald Trump presidency. You didn't have between 2016 and 2020. Now take us through the situation, the condition that Muslims found themselves in those 4 years of Donald Trump. And then we predict how it would look like, even though as Muslims we should always have faith. But then how was life for Muslims in the US between 16 and 20?
Okay, so I believe, and this is just my thought, please make sure that I'm quoted right. This is my belief, that this insurgence on October 6th came from
January
the power 6th, that October 6th. No, the Palestinian insurgence.
Okay, sorry. October the 7th.
On October 7th, sorry, I got the dates mixed up, was designed during 2016. The insurgency in January was the get ready. It was the precursor. And then I believe that because there were so many, just like the scandal with the mayor here in New York, getting Muslims to support his campaign, yet he was pro Netanyahu when the Palestinians came up. And that was like a slap in the face. How did you ask for Muslims in Turkey to support your campaign, yet when you get into office, you're pro-Israel? So that's why he's under indictment now, because it is a slap in the face again to Muslims. And yet again, someone came in, said that they were going to be about Muslims. And yet again, there is this populist vote that, many Americans, particularly in certain underprivileged regions, are now felt left behind by globalization, automation, and the loss of jobs based on it. And I'm using these terms because I want to bring in the strategies that I see as, to answer your question fully, to bring in those strategies that we feel as though happened in 2016. So Muslims felt left behind in 2016. So from 2016 to 2020, we felt like there was going to be something going to happen. And then here comes COVID, another catastrophic piece that could have been, and we find out now, could have been quelled with the medicines that were already on the horizon, that if we didn't go into this panic, that we used the medicines that helped once COVID came down, once we calmed down off of the panic, now allowed us to live a life that didn't require quarantine. Because if you think about it, essential personnel, medical personnel, police and fire and all of them had to go to work in the height of it. So clearly there was something that was keeping them healthy. So why didn't we just market that throughout this panic and then market it to the elders first and children next and all of the people that were more susceptible, and then to the rest of the people afterwards? Why didn't we do that? Why wasn't that the privy? Why was, total seclusion and isolation and all of this? And that was, to me, it was, I can't get what I want, so I'm just going to shut you down. Okay. I can't get what I want. I can't be who I want. I can't have what I want as a president. So I'm just going to shut you down as a nation. And he had that power. So if he's able to do that, and he's able to circumnavigate anything that we had as far as medicine, it made us look like a third world country. And I use that term because that's the negative connotation I want to give it. It is not a developing country, because a developing country says that things are coming. He used his power to say, if I can't get what I want, I'm going to treat you as if I am the dictator over those that are developing. And that's what he did. And that threw us back 50, 60 years in the forward moving motion of the United States. Yeah. So how does that allow us to believe that his communication style is now somehow conventional? Now, that was 2016 to 2020. How do I feel like it's now somehow conventional in relaying direct messages and his Twitter campaign and what he's going to do in this election? I mean, this 4 years. Now, thank God we only have 4 years left. But how do we feel as though that he capitalized on the political establishment? How do we believe that? It's more widespread dissatisfaction. But, for some reason, that dissatisfaction still got him in office. So who am I to speak on it?
Yeah, definitely. There was a Muslim ban when he came into office. He categorically made it clear to the world that he was going to ban some Muslims from coming into the United States of America. And I believe he did it. He was going to build a wall. Yeah, he was going to build a wall between the U.S. and Mexico. And he said Mexico would pay for the wall. I don't know where that story has been, because the next thing is about immigration. He doesn't like migrants, as he has been.
Except his wife.
Oh my God. Is originally from Europe, right?
Correct. And she's okay. She's a good one. But here's what I don't understand. When you say immigration, why do you choose a certain SECT of people? Immigration should count for those coming from Europe without documentation, those coming from the EU that have been brought over here. We don't mention all of that widespread movement of those coming from the EU who were dissatisfied with the EU, came to the US and Canada, undocumented. No one is speaking about the US-Canadian border. They're only talking about the US-Mexican border. So now it seems like there's a bias there. There's a gentrification in that bias.
It's the frequency that is the difference. The number of influx, more than 350 million crossings annually between the US and Mexico.
No, it's not the number. It's the people. He doesn't have respect for the people. So, of course, if it was 12 people, it would still be a large number. But here's where it is. Here's where you have to understand that 98% of those that come over that border are coming over for a better life. Okay, let's be clear. Just like anybody else that trucked through the Nina, the Pinta, and Santa Maria and came to the United States years ago, 1492, and signed that book on Ellis Island and came over with no paperwork, no documentation, but they came over illegally and they came over in an influx, but they became citizens of a country that was not even owned by the Europeans. They came over as citizens of the United States by default. Oh, you came over, you're seeking a better life. That's what the United States was built for, so just come on over. But when the Native Americans who were already here had land stolen from them. No one wants to mention that in the annals. When those that look like me, that were called black cowboys, that were already here because we came over intentionally to build the land so that there would be more resources. No one wants to mention that. But when we start talking about the transatlantic slave trade, and we talk about the forward moving motion to now the crossings at the Mexican border, now we have to have conversation. Now we have to have Twitter messages, and which is so childish. And then we have to have social media campaigns that are for this, because he has no other person that he can speak to. He doesn't have his own vernacular, so he uses 140 characters to be able to display something and hide behind a social media. And I don't understand that. The perceived inactions and failure of longtime politicians is extenuating with him. He is failing forward, and unfortunately, we are the scapegoat for that. He is able to become a political pundit, but yet gain office. He is able to have a disconnect with Washington, yet he wants to build a wall in Mexico and have the Mexicans pay for it. And the president unequivocally said, you have tanned a little bit too long if you think that we are going to pay for a wall that you want to build. And then he wants the Mexicans to build it.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Like you.
It's funny, to be honest with you.
It is funny. It's hilarious. And that's the person you voted into office. Okay. So,
critics of the United States of America are saying that the whole influx of migrants from Latin America into the United States of America, who mostly are coming from, as the Americans say, oppressive regimes, Venezuela, Cuba, and the rest. This is a blowback because the U.S. has, what's the word for it? Has sort of, I don't want to use the word destroy, but has affected their countries economically by slapping them with lots of crippling, hard-hitting sanctions. Venezuela is an example. Cuba is an example. And so for those people to escape those oppressive regimes, some of which empowered by the U.S., others of which affected economically by the United States, or punished economically by the U.S., then they come over to the U.S. in order to get the life that has been confiscated from them.
So I guess if Nigerians do it, it won't be called Japa. It'd just be coming over to, get a good life. Right. I love when I hear these things, and I get dismayed emotionally as a woman, and I say as a woman because I want to use that as the catalyst, how there is an emotional vote, yet women are emotional, but who won? Okay, so I use that emotional side of me to garner energy toward the things that are being said that have no basis. So when we say things like coming over for a better life, why would it be okay for Europeans to come over undocumented, but someone coming over for another country in the same light now be a nuisance, a vagrancy even? I go back to the Twitter thing. He developed a platform that helped control his narrative and avoid traditional media filters by saying things like asking questions. He didn't say, okay, Mexicans are this. Well, he did come out and say that, but he said that they were nuisance and they were dirty people and foul people and all the other words that he used. But he used Twitter to ask the question to his base. What do you think about the Mexicans' influx? And let them feed in him. So he used that so the filters won't be there. So he's able to say certain things, but we knew what his message was. He also used social media to energize and mobilize his base. And he used that in quiet regimes. So instead of being the Donald Trump page, it was, he used, was it MAGA 2025 or something, and made it seem like it was a political page, when really it was his base speaking about this 2025 plan. That's how he got it immobilized out there. We didn't find that out until we found, because it was a quite one of those pages where they didn't have many people that logged on, but many people that came on. Like, they weren't followers, so to speak, but they would keep coming back to that page. So you saw the analytics to that. And I use that to say that this is how he is planning January 21st, remember he comes in January 20th, to have a mass exodus for those that are undocumented and illegal. So is he going to do this for more than just those from the Mexican border? Is he going to do this for Europeans that don't have documentation, that are still waiting for their green cards, that are still waiting for their processes to come through from immigration? Are we going to sweep them back to Europe? Because I'm waiting to see where this is going to go. I'm waiting to see if he's going to do a mass exodus for those in Europe. I'm waiting for those in Africa that are being held up because of the Muslims that weren't able to go back. So I was saying in the precepts of that makes a great matter for what we are seeing now for the border. We're seeing that there's, as I mentioned, January 21, there is a plan in action to put Border Patrol there, to sweep in there, to get people back to their homelands. They're going to close the border. They have Border Patrol that is not allowing anyone in that does not have proper documentation. Those that are coming in from various places, they're having border setups so that they will detain them. And he's deputizing, I think it was like 5,000 more to set up right there. He's also bringing in the National Guard, the Air National Guard, and the Army National Guard to be available and ready so that when people come over, they'll be at more checkpoints, especially the ones that are not advertised, but the ones that we see people coming to. And then the ones that are here, oh my goodness, there is a huge delegation that has been going out, trying to find all of the factors of those that have come here and been, situated and settled to sweep them back. New York is a sanctuary city or sanctuary state. So it's going to be very, very hard. And we live here. We live in a bubble here because it's very hard to do anything here. You can't come and knock on somebody's door here because we are a sanctuary city, which means we are this. You cannot touch. It's in our Constitution. You cannot touch anyone here in New York. So it kind of saves them right now. That's why we are able to have abortions here still in New York. We're able to travel in and out from New York. If you get your ID, that legalizes you here in New York so that you can get your green card faster. So a lot of things here in New York don't matter, don't pertain to the rest of the world. And living in this bubble is beautiful because our children can be safe. We can say that there is a standard of living that will continue even through the chaos. And then the choices that have not been given to other states are given to us. So the blessing is living here and being, and now living 20 minutes down from the United Nations. We have the international pull of that sovereignty. So, it feels good to be here and it feels great to have this advocacy. But to know that we have to now be that voice for those that are there and those that are at the wall, for those that are here in the United States, that are here in the sanctuary, we have to raise that voice. We have to raise that voice to the due diligence of not breaking any more laws for the sake and the matter of free policy that he's going to be bringing in. So I want that to be my voice in this, that we have to stand up now to what is being pushed forward. And we have to be our own lobbyists and we have to be our own continuations so that things like that can't happen and keep, the sanctity of the sanctuary intact.
Let's take a break from talking about Donald Trump and talk about something that I suppose would make you a bit happy. And, well, a month and a half ago, the world leaders gathered at the United Nations General Assembly. I don't know whether you attended some of the events or you are part of the UN General Assembly, listening to the world leaders, some of them talking about concrete issues, others just echoing propaganda and stuff like that. How is it like when such big events are happening right close to you?
UN has a congruent group, and it's the population of the aging, and they have a actual aging seniors, elders. I was waiting for someone to come up and represent that group for those of us that are, let's just say, older than 50. And to look
mashallah. But you don't look 50.
Just alhamdulillah, yes. Alhamdulillah. I can't argue.
Mashallah.
Yeah, but we are us grandmothers that are trying to make life better for ourselves.
Yeah.
And there was a young woman, I think she was maybe 28, 29, that was speaking for the organization.
Oh.
I said, now, how do you have a whole council on aging and you use the voice of a child? And I'm sorry to say that, but I have children that are 29, 30, and 35. Yeah, so I don't understand how you use the voice of a child to speak on it. Was there not one person competent enough? So there were things that I was looking for this year to say that it would be unique and different. I was looking for them to promote more women's policies, more women's promotions, and it was the same rhetoric this year. So I walked away a little despondent, but I used that stage to bring about the General Assembly for next year, which I'm hoping will be 2025 is the year of the woman. So I'm hoping that they bring the year of the woman to the forefront, because if they don't, I don't know. I'm just going to lose hope all the way around. But I really think that there needs to be a huge push toward either getting a woman to lead. Mm-hmm.
To lead the United
Especially
Nations?
after this catastrophe.
To lead the United Nations, while the Americans are not ready to have a female president. Do you think it's that even possible?
Culturally, as an African woman, although I was born in the African culture, so I know that general patricide in the form of killing dream of women. I have seen it, my grandfather and my father, and now I have son-in-laws now that are speaking the voice of their grandfather. And I'm like, when is this going to change? I have grandchildren now, and they will not go through this. So I'm seeing the voice of the UN with that same patriarchal voice, that loud churning, let's keep traditions traditional, and let's keep the way things are the way they used to be. Like, why change?
Status quo.
Because men are saying it once again, nothing will change. So I think when Sister Ameena Mohammed's prolific piece about what is to come, I think it was like a sounding board for the deliciousness of what is going to happen in the next few months. Because I know the background, and we know as women, there are policies that are going to come through that are just going to blow our minds, because she's working on that. And we are supporting her. So she is our Kamala. And we're going to make sure now that we made this mistake, that mistake will not happen. So there are huge implications. So when you speak of the UN, I actually smile, because I know that's an easier win than what we're seeing now in society here in the US.
Yeah, definitely. Second to last question, the future of Africa. What should we expect here in Africa under Donald Trump's second presidency? A lot or nothing much?
He's not going to help Africa at all. I don't see that, because he was trying to, in fact, with the ban of Muslims, as you know, it was affecting some some African countries, but he was really targeting the Middle East. That was a big push, because it was Arabic speaking. That's what also allowed me to believe that it fueled the October 7th piece, and it also allowed a lot of that to go forward, because he was really putting a ban on the Muslim voice. So this go round, of course, as you know, is not going to fuel any better. But African countries that are Muslim countries, in fact, like the Gambia, my hometown, it is a Muslim country. So, and that patriarchal view is not coming off anytime soon. So we're going to be a Muslim country, forever and ever. Yeah. But I say, inshallah, sure. I say that there is going to be a political view that is going to be more hardened, because we are announcing ourselves now more as a Muslim country. It used to be accepted in Muslim countries that we were going to celebrate Christmas and have all the festivities of the Christian beliefs. And a lot of Muslim countries are like, yeah, we are losing power that way. We are Muslim countries for that reason. Now, we have to be inclusive, so we're not going to ban Christmas. But just like, and I use this as an analogy to what is happening with Donald Trump, I don't think he is going to ban the entire continent. But I think what he's going to do is pick and choose what he empowers. So if there is a Middle Eastern infection of truth in a certain country, and they're African, that will be banned. If there was more of a European feel to that country, that African country, that is more British or more toward the EU, that will probably get empowered, because it's about the agenda. Remember, we talked about the political strategies. It's not about having a strategy. It's about knowing who to call to get things done the way you want them done. And that is where the focus is going to be on this, because he's coming out again, and he's, whatever he messed up the first time, he's going to be corrected the first time here. Whatever he messed up then, whatever he didn't get done then, is going to be the first thing on January 21st. That's coming in, which is that sweeping thing with immigration. But I don't see that happening to Europeans that fall into that same category. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And with the United Nations to close that, I know that's going to be a different issue, because we're dealing with different players on a different chessboard. So I know that's going to be a different issue of solidarity.
But one beautiful thing about Donald Trump that maybe you do not acknowledge is that he's an independent man. He cannot be controlled, let alone influenced or tailored toward one direction by one person or the other. This man is a very strong man. That means if those political strategists try to influence him, he will say, no, we got to do what we got to do to make America great again. I know you will not believe this.
Because it is what you see as making America great again. I mean, we could say that for Nigeria. The president came in and said something similar. He's going to bring back the power of Nigeria. Now, where are you? I mean, you know, we're a couple of years in. What has happened now? The naira has shrunk even more. There isn't any political stance. I have more people coming from Nigeria here to the United States asking me for help to send money home. So what does that mean? I mean, he was supposed to be your Donald Trump, you know, as far as the independence of him being an independent man that is traditional in thinking, and he can't be swayed and all. What has that done to the people? What has that done for the Nigerian people? I mean, we can use the example there, so we don't have to subjugate the United States vote. Just look at what is happening there, because that is what the United States sees as your Donald Trump, and it didn't work. It's not working. So we can say he's an independent man and he can't be swayed, but if he's standing on something that is not solid ground, if he's standing on something that is going to hurt or harm somebody or alienate somebody, why would we say that that's a good thing? That's like saying, oh, he's a dictator, so he's a good man that wants things his way. But if he's a dictator for what he wants and not what's good for the people, how is his dictatorship helping?
Yeah. All right.
You know, we have to look at those things.
Yeah, sure. In 2 minutes, we're wrapping up.
Sure.
One thing now. Okay.
Sure.
Unpack some of the reasons why you think or you believe the world should be worried about the return of Donald Trump, the whole world. Just unpack them.
Unpack. Okay. What do you mean? In the context of what?
Yeah. What I mean is that, okay, before this election, there were a lot of questions about why should the world worried about the possible return of Donald Trump. Now that he has returned, what are the reasons why the world should be worried about? Because in those days, there was the US pulling out unilaterally of the Iran nuclear deal. He removed the US. He pulled the US out of Paris Accord. He threatened NATO and stuff like that. Right now, what are you thinking? Is he going to do the same or?
Okay, well, I mentioned 3 points before. I mentioned anti-established sentiment. I mentioned economic anxiety and populist messaging, and the effective use of social media. So I'm going to go back to those points because those are the points that I pulled out for this interview. First and foremost, the understanding of anti-establishment sentiment. To unpack this, Donald Trump's campaign capitalized on a widespread dissatisfaction, first of all, okay, with the political establishment. Many voters were frustrated with the perceived inaction or, if we would, failure of long-term political stance. He's right now in the moment. He doesn't think long game, okay? And a lot of even those that supported him the first time felt disconnected from Washington because nothing mattered in the way in which they thought it would when he got elected the first time, okay? Set aside that Trump's status as a political outsider has allowed him to appeal to those disillusioned by traditional politics. But let's talk about the economic anxiety and the populist messaging really quick. Many Americans, particularly those in developing areas, those that are socioeconomically deprived, and those that felt like they never had a voice, still feel left behind. Still, at his election, they still feel left behind. They feel left behind because even though we had a board of education, a Department of Education, he wants to disband it. Why would you take the very thing that has the least money, the weakest power, and the smallest voice and eliminate it? That's our children. You want to develop some socialized thing that to make America great again. In your view, it's your view of what you think America should be. It's not America's view. It's not the people's view. It's your view of what you feel was bad to make great again. And what your view is saying is that the negotiation of trade that you mentioned is on his basis. It's not on what the people said. Nobody voted on that. No one said that they wanted to be excommunicated from this and taken out of that and renegotiated that. Revitalizing Americans' industry on the backs of whom? On the backs of whom? What are we revitalizing? Are we revitalizing his plan to cut Social Security, to eliminate the taxation on the veterans? Like now we're supposed to be taxed on our money. We were taxed on our life. Now you're going to tax our money too. And then you're going to take Social Security, which is what we're going to rely on after the vet money is gone. You're taking that away. So what is the use of our trajectory in what it is that's coming forward? And then this last thing is the populist rhetoric on economic issues. It only resonated with the working class that think that they're going to get more money in their pocket. But what he did last time was he took money from their pocket and they were like, oh, well, he didn't have enough time to put any money back. No, he had no intention on putting any money back. That's why the stimulus had to come out, because he wanted to show he took the money out of your pocket. He wanted to show that he was giving it back. So all he did was take the money out of your pocket, revamp it for his programs, and then give you a piece of it back. He only gave you like $1,000 back. Yeah. But everybody was hollering over this $1,000, but he took the average of $5,500 from your pocket. So how is giving $1,000 back equitable? How is giving $1,000 back to states that didn't need it in the first place, like Washington, D.C., Florida? These states got more of the money back, but they didn't need it because they're more on the populace of the Republican vote. So they were going to get money in other ways. So we have to see the populist messaging as something that is thwarted vehemently, and that the economic issues with working class voters, the revitalizing of American industry, all is based on a plan that only he has in his little head. It has nothing to do with including men and women in his independent mindset of him being an independent businessman. If you look at the record of his business, it's not really business. It's almost loan sharking. You're taking money from one and causing more money to be imploded in another. And it's just, I don't know. The due diligence is not.
If we can go on and on and on. I'm not here to defend him. My job as a journalist is to put questions that are on the minds of many people. And many of the things that are now on the minds of Nigerians are now, oh, hey, this guy has been re-elected. And then why is it that we do not hear a good thing about him? But anyway, you back to your point.
Well, I didn't hear too many questions about Kamala. If you can go back in the tape, I didn't hear you asking too many questions about Kamala, but you're defending a lot of the male traditional points of what is seen.
Yeah, definitely, because we're not talking about. Yeah, no. We're not talking about her today. We're supposed to talk about the president-elect. If she were elected, then we would have been talking a lot about her and what the future of America and the world would look like under her presidency. But anyway, thank you enormously, Dr. Ameena Ali, Her Excellency Dr. Ameena Ali, for speaking to me on my show. In a few seconds, I hope you have enjoyed the show. What can you say about it and the questions, the topics, everything?
Well, I voiced my opinion and my voice was not heard. So I'm going to relent in this. But thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much indeed. I look forward to getting you back whenever you are less busy, whenever you're available to talk about one thing or the other that affect our people. Thank you very much indeed, Doctor.
You're most welcome. All right, be well.
On behalf of everyone that has contributed to the production of the show, Her Excellency Dr. Ameena Ali, all the way from New York, thank you enormously. My name is Umar Isa Dandago, saying goodbye and see you very, very soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Bye bye. My regards to the family and the grandchildren.
Thank you. And the many grandchildren. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. All right.